There's nothing quite like the respect shared between competitors in the garage. Teams can fight each other tooth and nail for position on the racetrack week after week, month after month, year after year. But when tragedy strikes, those same heated rivals close ranks into a bond forged as hard as steel in the heat of on-track competition. The sight of the garage stopping in unison as Kyle Busch's car was unloaded on a rainy day at Charlotte brought back gut-wrenching memories of Alan Kawicki's transporter being driven out of the Bristol infield on a similar dreary day 33 years earlier. At Charlotte and at Bristol, they were racers paying their respects to a fallen comrade. Those in the garage having each other's backs in times of crisis is one of NASCAR's most sacred traditions. After Tiny Lund helped pull Marvin Panch from a burning sports car, he took the Wood Brothers Racing Ford Panch had vacated to victory in the 1963 Daytona 500. 1992 Busch Series season opener, Bobby Labonte and Todd Bodine were there for Joe Nemechek. Later in 1992, Kyle Petty wrecks at Martinsville. Jeff Bodine begins to extinguish a small fire under the hood, while Tony Rambo Liberati helps Petty out of the car. Ricky Rudd, Ward Burton, Darlington, 1996. When Bobby Allison was critically injured at Pocono in June 1988, response in the garage was immediate. Hurry Back Bobby buttons and decals were distributed throughout the garage the following weekend at Michigan, and the rear of Michael Waltrip's Bahari Racing Pontiac was covered in get well wishes for the 1983 Winston Cup champion. When Alan Kawicki died en route to Bristol in April 1993, Michael Waltrip became the first to honor him with a Polish victory lap following his win in that weekend's Busch Series event. Rusty Wallace followed suit the next day in one of the most iconic moments of his Winston Cup career. Today, Rusty says that it was in that moment that most fans forgave him for his controversial run-in with Darrell Waltrip at the end of the 1989 edition of the Winston All-Star Race. Davey Allison lost his life just a few months after Kawicki. His team, Robert Yates Racing, elected to skip the following weekend's event at Pocono. Dale Earnhardt won, and after taking the checkered flag, Jackman David Smith led the Richard Childress Racing crew in prayer at the start-finish line, after which Dale did yet another backward victory lap, this time carrying a Davey Allison flag. Yates's team returned to competition at Talladega. Davey's widow Liz and their children Robbie and Krista were honored during pre-race ceremonies, a scene that very sadly foreshadowed Charlotte in May of 2026. Dale Earnhardt would go on to capture the 1993 Winston Cup Championship, and following the season finale at Atlanta, he and race winner Rusty Wallace concluded the heartbreaking season with a final tribute to Alan and Davey. And Neil Bonnet, who died in February 1994 as the result of injuries he sustained during a Daytona practice session, Dale Earnhardt would remember his buddy for the rest of his life. When tragedy strikes, members of other teams as often as not pitch in to help start picking up the pieces, even if they're in the midst of a pitched battle for some of the sport's biggest prizes. Dale Earnhardt and Ernie Irvan were 1-2 in points, well ahead of the rest of the field when Irvan was critically injured during an August 1994 practice session at Michigan. Sure enough, with the attention of Ernie's Robert Yates Racing team focused on his condition, Dale's RCR crew unloaded Ernie's backup. Dale, of course, died in an accident on the final lap of the 2001 Daytona 500. There were countless tributes from around the world and in the garage, far too many to attempt any kind of comprehensive list. Here's one that will speak for the rest. Dale certainly had his differences with Darrell Waltrip over the years. There was a time when they were all but at each other's throats. But who gave the invocation at Rockingham the week after Dale's accident? None other than DW himself. Finally, without reservation, no other tribute for a lost competitor has had the kind of lasting impact of Victory Junction, established in memory of Adam Petty. Thousands of children have attended camp free of charge at the facility, which is located in Randleman, North Carolina, not far from the Petty Enterprises compound in nearby Level Cross. Kyle Petty has been the driving force behind it all, with help from his dad, Richard. None of what they've accomplished, however, would have been possible without the steadfast financial and fundraising support of their fellow NASCAR competitors. Yet again, it's racers helping racers. That's the way it's always been, and that's the way it always will be. That's the code of the garage.